the way K-State played, record-setting performance offensively, combined with a collapse at the end, mix in some controversial officiating, and then 2 emotional press conferences, right? Both head coaches were crying at their press conference. Like, it was just, there was so much that happened with that. So many emotions for so many people. Everybody's reacting emotionally. Okay, it's not just Chris Klieman because, oh boy, fans, us included, everybody's reacting emotionally after that game. So your take, DY, on everything that transpired on Saturday.
Yeah, there's a lot to wrap your head around. I was in Salt Lake and actually missed the game because I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed. So I'll kind of use a phrase that Andy Staples used, and he kind of talked about the game in the post game a little bit. He's like, there was, because he said, like, the way that game transpired, obviously he didn't think Utah was going to win once K-State went up 47-35. But like, you just know it's one of those types of games if at the end of the game, after the game, both coaches are crying. That was an emotional filled game. Obviously you went in not thinking Kansas State had a shot, and they fought so hard that they competed and definitely should have won that game. Another 2-score lead in the fourth quarter that they let evaporate. And that was as much of an imprint that the officials have put on a game that I can remember too, is what I would say as well. I think that's fair. I also said in kind of my column afterwards, trying to make sense of that press conference, and obviously I get no one wants me to sit here and defend or justify actions. I kind of tried to say where I thought they were coming from, right? And I basically said, and John Cole, you guys both covered games for a long time. You know this. There's especially in NCAA tournaments and playoff games and bowl games, there's a mandated cool down period. That game was the way that it unfolded needed a cool down period. And obviously there wasn't one long enough. And that's why you kind of saw some of the raw uncut emotion from both head coaches, in my opinion. I think if you give Klieman, and I'm not trying to justify his actions here, but if you give him another 15 or 20 minutes, I don't think he touches what he touched in that press conference. I don't think he goes to where he went in that press conference. I think that was justified by his Monday press conference, right? Where he was asked to kind of follow up on his emotional outburst, so to speak. And he basically gave an answer to just get me out of this question as fast as I can. Yeah. Didn't want to touch it. That's the typical Klieman you get. You get the boring, I'm not going to give you a straight answer type thing. You didn't get that Saturday night because I think emotions were still high strung, because he knows that they played with an effort good enough to win the game. And he knows that not a lot of teams can do that against Utah. So he felt really proud of them because of that. That doesn't mean he's proud of 5 and 6. It means he was proud of them that night. The problem is, if they had that kind of fight and that kind of battle in them that he commended that night, they wouldn't be 5 and 6. I totally agree with that. So I don't think there's any problem with him going to bat for his players on that given night or his program. Just that, if you would have got it out of them more than that night or a couple nights, you wouldn't be 5 and 6. I think those are all things can be true. And I think they are. The only times where I kind of cringed a little bit, whenever you ask for a little bit of respect when you have a losing record, it's probably not going to go a good way, even if your thought and meaning behind it is not exactly what the surface would tell you. The fans are going to not eat that up. I deserve a little respect when the last time you won the Big 12 was 3 years ago and you're sitting 5 and 6. That's not going to go over well. I'm not saying you don't have a right to feel that way. You feel however way you want, but that's just not going to go over well. And I assume that's what a lot of the vitriol has been about. I don't think Gene Taylor made things better either by going up there and basically getting caught on a hot mic, so to speak, saying you're not going anywhere and you have nothing to worry about. So I think both things could be true. I think everyone wants to rush to one side here. I think there's a really good medium to hit. And I'll say this too, and you guys can attest because you talked to some of the same sources that I have. In terms of, I think some of the fan outburst and anger and rage has been along the lines of paranoia about what the national perception and reaction will be. Well, I've talked to recruits and their parents, both committed and not committed to Kansas State. They actually loved it. Pretty consensus there. And you guys know this. They have actually got more outreach and outpouring of donor support since that press conference. The players loved it. Avery Johnson's dad has never defended Klieman so much more on social media than he has in the last 48 hours. If you want to go look on that. And don't look at the comments towards him because they're really bad. He's getting dragged and really torn apart by fans, and it's kind of unhealthy to a point, to be quite honest. Other coaches love it. I've seen 7 Power 5 coaches mention Chris Klieman's press conference without even being asked about it in their press conference. So I don't think the reaction's what people expected either.
I have a lot of thoughts. I think that's all really good, DY. Like, I mean, I'm pretty in line with you on that. Like when we first, I was trying so hard to be measured because we caught it. I don't know if you probably didn't see the post game, DY, but we caught it. Like we were like 20 minutes into the show and caught it, and then like
I was sending it to you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and like tried to listen to it live, and like, you know, when you're in that moment, like I'll speak for myself. I didn't think that I had that much emotion left in me for this K-State football season, and you guys, you know, some of you have given us a hard time in the comments about that, you know, being sort of emotionless about the season. I thought I was pretty checked out, but like, man, yeah, it was hard not to be like wrapped up in it and proud of those dudes for the way that they were playing. It was unbelievable. Like I can't believe that they did that. And it did bring me back in. And I was upset about the officiating and like all of these things. Like I was brought back in, and that is definitely a testament to those guys and what they did. And so in the immediate aftermath of that, you got all these raw feelings and emotions, and then you hear that. And yeah, the thing that triggered frustration in me is exactly what you said, DY, when it's the asking for respect, and it feels like it's a bit of fan shaming, which I'm sure that's how, like, at the raw emotion, Klieman really feels. I don't think, like you said, he actually wanted to do that at a microphone. I think all that can be very true. And, like, dude, of course he feels like that behind the scenes. Like, I heard someone say, like, hey, it was someone who was being critical of him. I think it was some Utah radio guys or something. They were like, that's a moment that you have behind the scenes, not at a microphone. And I'm like, hey, I think that's kind of fair. But again, there's no cooling off period. And Klieman should feel that way. Not everybody. Many people have been calling for his job, or calling for basically the younger model, right? They're saying, go take Colin Klein, this guy who used to coach under you. Everyone wants you pushed out for him. Like, of course he's going to feel that way. Like, hey, I deserve a little bit more respect. That's any single one of you complaining about it would feel that way if you were in his shoes. I do understand how the issue then is when it comes across the mic. So when I first hear that, I'm definitely frustrated by it. I also get frustrated by, then there's like a wave of support for him, which that's fine. There should be, especially from people that are close to the program. But then I feel like it turns very quickly into two-sided America thing, where it's anybody who has doubt in Chris Klieman's ability to get it back to a Big 12 championship level is a hater and not a real fan and a terrible person. You know, I mean, that's what I get frustrated by, then seeing the reaction to that. And it feels like there's that natural ebb and flow. Whereas to me, I think there's a real middle ground here. I understand Chris Klieman feeling that way. I undoubtedly would too. I don't love that it came across at a microphone, but having some time to think about it, like I can understand. I appreciate that he just deflected really quickly and kind of went away from it on Monday and didn't let it become more of a story. And I still have major doubts about his ability to get the program back to a Big 12 championship level. But I do respect him as a person, and I respect his accomplishments that he's had here at K-State. I think all those things can be true. All those things can be true.
I wanted to clarify a few things before I give the mic here to Cole. One, I wasn't excusing anything that's happened this season either. Like I said, the problem is you only got that kind of performance a few times this season. That's the issue. It's still a failure of a season in my mind. They've still underachieved 3 straight years. None of that has changed. I can still think both things. 2, I think it was the lack of a cooldown period. But if we're all being honest here, it was the wrong time to ask for some respect. I understand why you might feel that way, but it was the wrong time to do that. He shouldn't have done that. 3, I think we got to be careful here too. So the people are like, have been accusing him of not caring and not having enough fire. And then he goes and shows that he does. So that's something to keep in mind. And 4, yeah, I think I keep saying it, he's not an idiot. There's the elephant in the room where he clearly knows that there's enough people, a probably significant segment of people that want him out and Colin Klein in. And he feels like, hey, I've done a pretty good job here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the cool down period changed. It feels like a message he wanted out. Because if he regretted anything that he said, guys, my advice would have been on Monday in the press conference to walk back a little bit of what he said, but he didn't. You know, he chose to say, quote, I care for the kids. I'm not going to apologize. I'm always going to have their back. Here's the problem with that. The statement that he gave, while the emotions are great and everything, and I'm glad to hear that players and others are reacting in a positive light, but he didn't make it about his players in the press conference. He made it about himself. Here's the quote. I've heard I cashed it in. I've heard the players have cashed it in. We need to get new leadership here. We need to get new players, new coaches. I'm tired of it. I got to be honest. I'm tired of it. I've given my friggin' ass to this place for 7 years. I've given everything for 7 years, and I think I deserve a little bit of respect. Do you hear all of the I's in that statement? It's all about I, Chris Klieman. I deserve respect. That's my problem. Okay. He is the CEO of the football program. Okay. He cannot go out and do that. The CEO of the football program and one of the most important faces of the university, the fans and donors are your investors. They are your shareholders. A CEO cannot go out and publicly state that he deserves respect after failing to meet or deliver on expectations over a 3-year period, particularly this season. When you don't achieve the results that are expected, you can't go out with a message that I need more respect. That does not fly. So that's where my problem is. You know, if he wanted to walk it back, he should have walked it back and said, look, I didn't mean for that to come across as a shot to the fan base who sell out every game, even when we're not playing good football, and they keep showing up. I love our fans. That should have been the message. Instead, he gave an 8-word statement that he wasn't going to walk back anything that he said. So he wanted it out there, clearly. So without a cool down period or not, he maybe doesn't get as emotional in terms of tears and everything. And I'm not making fun of that. It's fine to be emotional. It was the words, the message delivery that struck with me that really bothered me. So that's where I'm at.